So, hey girl, you, you come here often? Like, sitting in Blood Rain, MTX? Really? Oh, you're not Russian anymore? Then I don't care. What's up, guys? Today, we're gonna show off some Cyclone action, but this time I'm going to show off you guys what happens when you get something better than Hiltless. So last time I was on a 5-link Hiltless, I believe. Things are going okay, but now we're basically going to be facing endgame content anytime soon. I'm assuming by the end of this week I'll have everything ready. And here's what we've improved. We got a Disfavor, which is one of the two endgame weapons I definitely recommend. This one is pretty decent, not over 600 DPS, but it's a minor change. The main features of this weapon are +2 weapon range and +2 to socket its support gems. Now, the idea that they're support gems is very important because that means your Cyclone is going to benefit slightly from each support gem thereafter, all 5 of them, in which case I run Cyclone, Ruthless, damage on full life, and I'll explain why in a second, melee physical damage, increased area of effect, which I swap over with Conk for bosses, but I rarely do that because the damage is enough. It just takes like 20 seconds longer to kill a tier 12, tier 13 boss, and I'm too lazy to weapon swap and change. And added fire damage in my case. I've seen other people say that faster attacks is also an option, but I will be discussing why that is not an option from my testing so far. Notice that I have pretty decent spiked gloves, and notice that I actually enchanted them to have physical attack damage leached as mana, and I'm going to explain why. It's because right now I'm sitting at 0.73 main hand mana leech from physical attacks, which means from this weapon. And even so, there are some bosses in this game that seem to have some fucked up mechanics that make me not leech enough mana, and I literally stop spinning. It's very dangerous for a Cycloner to stop spinning, while your overleech from the fact that we are a Slayer are still persistent, and they're going to stick with you even if you stop spinning, and you will still be immune to stuns and bleeding. It's still very dangerous because you are still a leech class. You do not have instant life back, such as a Zerker. You are literally standing here waiting for your life to get back. Right now, I'm doing quite a bit of damage, and I leech back about 2k life on hit. If I stop spinning, it gets pretty dicey. Even though I was hoping to get over 7k life for you guys, so you can see a proper endgame character at level 92. I cheapened out and I didn't buy better jewelry or better jewels because I'm saving up for something special that I'm going to be able to showcase probably later this week. So the title of the video is going to be something of El Clásico. The reason for that is this is the typical variant of Cyclone, one of the two endgame possibilities that we have, which is we are using a high physical damage weapon, in this case a Zeri's Disfavor, paired with two things. Herald of Ash, that we gain 15% of our physical damage as extra file damage, and naturally Hatred, which pairs up beautifully because it's based off on our physical damage as well. So now we went from some fizz, and the lightning that you see here is just basically from one of my rings. It's nothing, but it gets slightly multiplied, and now we have fire damage, cold damage. The thing is, with Cyclone, cold damage is not a bad idea, to be honest, because porcupines, despite them having only 70% chance of emitting spikes now instead of 100%, can still wreck you. Remember, we are a leeching class. We cannot make back our life pool, like we cannot make our life pool get full back instantly. It's going to be a process. You're going to have to dodge, you're going to have to evade, and this is why I can explain some gear choices that you see here. Belly of the Beast, because we need big HP pools. We're a melee character, for crying out loud. This is what we're based on. Our most effective HP, I believe, is life. because we cannot afford to use other defensives. We cannot afford to invest heavily in our tree something like armor or evasion. You notice that it's not 6 linked. I have Ancestral Warchief, Maim support, Conk effect, faster attacks. The reason for why I have this is Ancestral Warchief still gives me the attack speed bonus. So with it my damage increases. See, 88 to 103k. And I need just to maim the target. Maim is a debuff. It's going to be applied to whatever my Ancestral Warchief hits. So I'm going to automatically do 14% increased physical damage. Actually, it's more damage because it says enemies maimed by support skills take 14% increased physical damage. Any kind of formulation of such notice, like enemies take increased damage, is a more multiplier, not an increased multiplier. Thank you, GGG, for making this game extremely easy to play for everyone out there. Right. So, why do we take these choices? Why do we do this thing? Well, as I said before, hatred scales with physical damage. It's good because we still have a chance of freezing enemies simply because of the massive amount of damage that we do when we're with Blood Rage, Flame Golem up, full frenzy charges. We're doing pretty decent damage. And Herald of Ash because it artificially increases our AoE range. Now, for AoE and for quality of life, you have two things to consider. Total weapon range, because that's what's going to scale Cyclone much better than Area of Effect, although you do have to take Area of Effect clusters. And move speed, because Cyclone naturally has 30% less movement speed while you're spinning. So even though I'm running around pretty fast, when I'm spinning, not so great. Not so great. So how do we combat that? Well, I'm using a Duresso Salute, which gives me double resist, 10% movement speed when on full life, 2 melee weapon and armed range, which is great. 60% increased melee damage while on full life. This pairs up extremely nicely with my damage on full life support, which I think is absolutely gorgeous and amazing, and I love it, because we were going to be at full life quite a long time. Even in Uber Lab, against Uber Izaro, fully buffed, going for those 6-7 keys, as many as you would like, you are still going to have plenty of time when you will be at full life. Simply because he summons some minions. Once you kill a couple of little skellies, the overkill damage leech is going to kick in and you're going to go full life pretty fast. So this damage is actually, I consider this to be the best sixth link you can possibly get, especially because now it works with every source of damage. It doesn't only work with physical as it used to. Now it scales every source of damage, everything that counts as an attack, which means it works with the cold damage that I get from hatred. It means it would work with like fire damage that I would have on a ring or something like that. Anything that is considered an attack skill is going to get scaled up, including the elemental damage. And who can say no to 50% more damage? Like, come on. That's ridiculous. The second thing that I took for comfort, I would say, please disregard the enchant, it's crap, I know, is Devotos. This actually is here for two reasons. One, we're not very good on decks. We're not very good on decks. Like, we're literally kind of dex starved. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The second reason why I took this helmet is 20% increased movement speed, which is extremely important. The chaos resist is cherry picking on top. It's pretty good. Do not get confused about the 10% reduced physical damage, although it's a pretty hefty penalty. The 16% increased attack speed kind of makes up for it. It almost evens out. Not to mention the fact that more attack speed can usually be translated in slightly more leech. Not so much in the case of Slayer, where we are sitting at full leech cap anyway, because of who we are and because of our ascendancy and what it does. Right. What else is there to say? Movement speed on boots, obviously, extremely important. I would say that this is a Merc Lab enchant. The 16% increased attack and cast speed, if you've killed recently, I believe is our best option overall for both mapping and bosses. I'm level 92. I could afford to also take this cluster, Tireless. I also took Ancestral Knowledge simply because I had nothing else to take. Right now I'm kind of full. There's literally nothing else I can take. The life node is full. I took Path of the Warrior, which is surprisingly good damage. Next up, if I take 2 or 3 more levels, I'm just going to start investing in stuff like the melee damage nodes from Marauder or the HP nodes from Marauder, one of the two. I even took Life and Armor here in a vain hopes that I'm going to surpass 4k life and impress you all, but that was not meant to happen, right? So, let's see the build in action for now. I have a map here. It's a shaped shore. I believe it's the best XP, even for a build that does not have such high AoE as a Cyclone. Let's see how it works, right? Generally with like 26 pack size, no sextants, I would get about 100 mil per hour, which is fine. As naturally as every other melee class, because we have to rely on lead plan for movement, I have it linked with Fortify with 20 quality. As you notice, I have 6 seconds of Fortify up there, which is extremely important versus certain classes. Also notice that my HP barely changes. Yeah, sure, sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up, but mostly I would say that for trash, I have about 75 to 80% uptime on melee damage on full life. Do not be deterred by the fact that there are some small numbers on my life that kind of show that I'm not at full HP. That is, I would say, a visual bug. I have much more regen than I need to combat the fact that I use Blood Rage. And the Overleech is still active for quite a bit of time after I kill a pack of mobs. So even though I'm considered under, in reality, I'm sitting at leech cap. Look at this. Almost 200k damage with increased area of effect. Because it's Cyclone, you hit twice, you're supposed to double that. So I would say that for most things, I'm doing close to 400k DPS right now, which is pretty substantial. There is literally no tier 15 boss in the game that can can survive that damage. I've gotten to the point where out of boredom I will kill a Ziri on a 5 link with increased area of effect without changing back. Even though normal Ziri now has slightly adjusted HP values, she has been buffed like any other boss up to tier 15s. Tier 16 bosses are the same. Right now I've attempted 2. One of them was extremely poor, like it was extremely poor decision for me to do it, but I was like I don't know, I was too annoyed to try to, come on, could you, oh, never mind. I just want Belser to actually get at least one, you know, it makes me feel better. And there I go, killing it in one shot, god damn. So basically I tried Minotaur, but we had 2 things that went completely wrong for that build. I had monster speed, cast speed, and attack speed, movement speed. This is what we call usually steroids. And I had increased monster life, boss life, and a 70% area of effect on a Minotaur map. Which means, not only did his charge instantly kill me, his slam would have 100% killed me and probably my grandkids, because he was probably doing like twice my HP pool and damage. And also his rockfall, which is slightly based off of Vagans. It was only like the size of the screen because it has 70% increased area of effect. The other fight that actually went pretty well was Pit of the Chimera. Pit of the Chimera himself is a joke. Your Slayer, as soon as you kill something, his bleed just wears off. You can probably, if you pay a lot of attention and you manage to dodge most of his kills, you can do this without a bleed flask. I do not recommend it though, because what else are you gonna take? This is just like increased precautions that you can take. And other than that, his trash is extremely strong as usual. Like, trash for Chimera is fucking ridiculous. Even with close to 7k HP, they nearly one-shot me most of the times. It's an extremely tough balancing act. Also, there are some bugs with Cyclone that I would like to mention, which is if you have slight lag, if you start spinning and then you do something like a leap slam, sometimes it's not going to consider your spin finished, so it's going to spin you back to the original place. And I actually died once to normal Itziri because of that, and I wanted to throw my computer out the window because that was embarrassing. But it was due to a bug, so she did the double flame blast. I didn't care about how full my flasks were before I entered the room because it's just a normal Itziri, right? And I literally leap slammed away and I turned back and Cyclone back into her. I was carrying one of my guilty friends, and I think he was on a different gateway. So this is the classic version of Cyclone with Hatred, Herald of Fire. I personally use Summon Flame Golem. You can also go with Lightning Golem. It actually sims out to slightly more DPS for attack speed. I had some concerns about mana, that's why I took a 0.4% mana Leech Gem, and I also enchanted my gloves. Even so, if anyone knows what happens to the Arachnid Tomb boss in the Shaped Tier 12 here, if anyone can please explain me what is going on. Because the boss here makes me go which is mathematically impossible. Like, I'm using Soul of Ralakesh, which says that I cannot be blinded and I cannot be maimed. I cannot be blinded, so I can 100% hit him anyway, although I'm also Resolute Technique just in case there was some boss that had some cookie mechanics. I took this just in case. And even though I can hit him 100% of the time, I still run out of mana single target against him, which is ridiculous. That should never ever happen. But bear in mind, sometimes it's good to switch to default attack on mouse first, or to a leap slam into a pack of mobs, because you might not have enough mana for Cyclone. Cyclone is extremely greedy. Right now it's at 34, but please remember that I took the Tireless node. So that's 34 with 9 plus 6, 15% reduced. So it's a pretty greedy skill. Please bear that in mind. Now, if I make some sales this week from the items that I've gathered by farming labs, and luckily 6 linking things in like 50 fuses, I'll show you a different version of endgame Cyclone that can possibly do Guardians and Shaper more comfortably. But we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'm going to try to answer to the best of my abilities. And, well, have fun spinning.